For that, we'll take a look at the back pages, and we are going to start with the Irish Independent this morning, and it's a picture of Mo Salah there reaching for a ball which ultimately resulted in a wide, I think, last night, that particular chance. It was Reds fire blanks in Anfield stalemate, says the headline, and Henderson and clear to boost Schmidt's Rome lock stock, says Rory O'Connor. So Ian Henderson has avoided any punishment for an alleged neck roll, I guess you could say, last week in the Pro 14. And you've also got Sarri on brink amid wider Chelsea crisis, which is a story doing the rounds in all of the sports pages this morning. He has survived for now, but he's still very much on the brink, and there are fears that Chelsea's plight could be made even more difficult regardless of who is head coach, as the club wait to see if Eden Hazard wants to join Real Madrid. FIFA hits the Blues with a transfer ban, UEFA bans thousands of their fans in the Europa League, and their battle with former head coach Antonio Conte goes to court. It's probably the most difficult period so far in Roman Abramovich's reign. We move on to the Irish Times this morning. Gordon Darcy's column is Ireland need to park the blues, rediscover their sense of fun and start playing some jazz, while on the front of their sports section it is resilient Bayern ensure Liverpool still have it all to do. Mo Salah there again pictured last night in between two Bayern Munich defenders. The Times Ireland edition then this morning leads with the headline, Mane blows Liverpool's big chance. And O'Brien says move will not end Ireland career. So this is Sean O'Brien obviously speaking yesterday at Carton House about his move to London Irish. Says he expects to play for Ireland still after moving to London Irish. We'll ask, we'll get takes on this as the show progresses, Kenny, but like we were speaking about this before going on air, that the double standard, I want to say, that exists between Johnny Sexton and the rest of Irish players is an interesting one. It's an understandable one given how good Johnny Sexton is. Sean O'Brien hasn't exactly ruled out the possibility that he's going to play for Ireland once again, while also being a London Irish player. And I guess the process of following this unwritten rule is kind of a case-by-case basis. But there's no suggestion at the moment that Farrell is going to, after taking over from Joe Schmidt, change any rules at all with regards to this.
Yeah, I'd have a lot of sympathy for Sean O'Brien there. There's obviously reasons why he's making the move, and clearly there's a financial one. He hasn't got a central contract, you mentioned, from the Rugby Association, so I can understand the offer from a club in England would be, you know, he wouldn't turn it down, but it's such a shame, like, you know what I mean, to have to sacrifice potentially, you know, your relationship with the international team. Obviously, he's been a big member of the squad, huge amount of pride, I'd imagine, putting on the jersey, goes without saying. So to have to kind of sacrifice that, I mean, I'd have a huge amount of sympathy for the player. And like you said, you know, a hardened rule in terms, I can understand it in terms of, look, you take a step away from the provinces, well, that's the end of it. And as long as you're pretty consistent with that, but obviously the exception of Johnny Sexton, which I understand in terms of the qualities which he possesses, but once you start to realise that, you start making the exceptions, the whole thing starts to fall apart a little bit, and it can breed a little bit of discontent, I would assume, amongst players, to see an exception being made for one particular player. And this isn't a criticism of Johnny Sexton at all. I know obviously he's back at Leinster at the moment, but once you start making exception for individual players, that must be difficult for other players to take. We're making a commitment to the provinces. Maybe financially they could better themselves by going abroad to England, France, you know better than me, but now they're making the commitment to the province primarily because of their international, their relationship with the international team, how much they value that and how much they're committed to it. But then to start seeing exceptions being made, that must be a difficult one in terms of a little bit of a head wreck for some of the players. Maybe it isn't an issue, maybe that's just me, maybe overplaying it, but I can understand the logic of it, and I think the international team has benefited from it, in terms of managing their kind of game time, and you can see that in terms of the level of performance over the past couple of years from the team, which has been pretty much amazing. So there's clearly a logic to it, which I understand. But once you draw a line in the sand and start making exceptions, that's a dodgy road to go down. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if anybody actually comes out in the next couple of years and actually speaks out against it, because nobody so far seems to be any bit dissatisfied with that decision. Maybe just everybody accepts that it was the correct decision if you take everything on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, we'll get into those Sean O'Brien quotes a little bit later on as well. At the front page of the Irish Examiner sports section is Red Eye, Liverpool missing ruthless streak in Anfield's stalemate, and Donald Lenihan is saying springtime stutters will stand to Ireland in World Cup cauldron, which seems to be the common theme over the past couple of weeks. And the back page of the Racing Post then finally is firing blanks. City have too much firepower for a shot-shy Schalke. It's Schalke against Manchester City in Gelsenkirchen tonight. It kicks off at 8 o'clock. I'm going to preview a little bit of that later on as well. But first of all, you've got some of the tabloids.
All right.
Presumably,
I'm not going to repeat. Now, you've separated these papers. I'm not going to start repeating headlines, am I? No pressure here. I think the quote from, obviously Liverpool dominate the back page, the quote from Jordan Henderson, "We'll hurt them in Munich." It's good to hear, I think, from your captain after the game, nice and positive. And I think there's merit to what he's saying in terms of how good Liverpool are as a counter-attacking team. I'm sure they fancy their chances of scoring over there. Just a reference to Mo Salah here, Mo way through. Little bit disappointed maybe in terms of Salah's performance. Such high standards he's set on a week-to-week basis for Liverpool. Wasn't quite at it last night when, you know, a home goal would have been absolutely key. I like this picture of Robertson and Kate. It's in a couple of the papers. Having a bit of a Robertson having a bit of a scream up. And Kate, we're talking about how you treat your players. You can't scream at players too much. Kate is obviously thinking, why are you raising your voice? You don't need to shout. That's an indication of the frustration there on Robertson's face as that game went on last night. Salah again, this particular one, this chance he had on first half, ball to the back post. That header usually very good, clinical, arriving at the back post, probably symptomatic of his performance, just not quite at it. This is an interesting one on the back of the early start for me in terms of Reds goal for Sancho. Manchester United linked with Jadon Sancho, potentially in the summer, fee of like €100 million reportedly off.
You're shaking your head.
Well, it's just amazing. Less than a year in the Bundesliga, signed for like less than 10 million. And I think it's interesting in terms of potentially what it means for other players at Manchester United in terms of the turnover of personnel. Don't be surprised, Sancho and the likes of Sanchez, even Lukaku heading out the other way. That's a huge amount of money. But in terms of Sancho joining up with the likes of Rashford, Lingard and Martial, young players developing, improving, that's a great headline for Manchester United supporters to read. I would imagine. There's the photo. That's an even better one of Robertson. I can't let it go. He's even putting his hands on him. He just needing to really get a grip of Keita there. I don't know who you'd fancy really, like in terms of
Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson,
Street fighter.
Like he's a Scot.
Without a doubt. Like you reckon? What are you trying to say? He pull a bottle out of his back pocket like typical kind of Glaswegian style. I can't believe you said that, But anyway, and again, obviously, just repeating the picture, just repeating the Salah miss there, and all the headlines indicating a bit of frustration from Liverpool's point of view. They didn't get that lead last night against Bayern, but also you sense a little bit of optimism there that Bayern Munich as well didn't get the away goal at Anfield as well. Very evenly poised. I still feel slight advantage to Liverpool off the back of the results last night. In some respects, I think maybe small opportunity missed for Bayern. Seeing as though Liverpool had that little bit of a soft centre in the heart of the defence, Matip made a very nervous first 45 minutes. A lot of talk about Fabinho last night, centre half. Matip very nervous in the first 45 minutes. And for me, a little bit of frustration from Bayern Munich. They couldn't take advantage of that and wrestle that away goal.